a green card holder, a non-US citizen, they'll need their alien registration number, which is on their green card. You're going to need your 2020 federal and state tax returns. So that's from the 2020 year, and any other records of money earned. You'll need, and this is only if it's applicable to you. If you have bank statements or records of investment, you'll have to bring that if you have that. If you have any other untaxed income, you'll have to bring that. If you or your parent has a driver's license or a New York State ID, you'll need to bring that. And you also need to bring a list of schools that you're interested in, because you're going to be putting that onto your FAFSA and applications. So I often get lots of questions when I'm doing financial aid applications with students about, can I just put my information and not my parents? I work, I support myself. And the answer to that is sometimes, but usually not really. So dependent students have to provide their biological parents' information, even if you don't live with them or aren't claimed on their taxes. So say you live with, a grandmother or aunt or uncle, but you just live with them, but they still don't have legal custody over you, you will need to provide your parents' information, even if you don't live with them. The only way that you would be considered independent and not need to provide your parents' information is if at any time since the age of 13, both parents were deceased, you are in foster care or a dependent award of the court, you're an emancipated minor or in a legal guardianship. So that's what I was talking about before. We do have a lot of students who are in a legal guardianship. In those cases, you don't need to provide your biological parents' taxes, but you will need to provide documentation, court documentation that you were in a legal guardianship. So say you live with an aunt and uncle and it's just some sort of agreement between your family, but there's no legal documents, that doesn't count. You need to provide your biological parents' information. Only if you have the documents to support that you're in a legal guardianship can you just include your information. And then lastly, if at any time on or after July 1st, you were determined to be an unaccompanied youth who was homeless. Another question I get a lot is, whose information do I put? Lots of students have different family dynamics, and so there's often a question of who do you include in your FAFSA? So this is a little chart here to sort of help explain that. If your parents are married to each other, you have to provide both of their information on your financial aid application. If your parents are not married, but they do live together, you have to provide both information on your FAFSA application. If your parents are not married together, they don't live together, you're to provide the parent with who you live with for the majority of the year. Say that you live with your parents equally, it's completely split, you're to provide the parent who gives you the most support over the year, financial support. Now say that your parent is remarried and you have a step parent, you're actually supposed to include both your parents and your step parents' information on your FAFSA, which a lot of people don't know. So before we start our FAFSA application, we have to complete something called an FSA ID. It's basically an electronic ID that you use to sign your FAFSA. So the website to complete that is at www.fsaid.ed.gov. It must be completed before you complete your FAFSA. So every student has to create an ID and at least one parent has to create an ID. And like I said, it's used to access and sign your FAFSA each year. And so you're going to be using this information a lot. So please write down your username and password somewhere safe that you can use, remember it and access it, because it's a pain to recover your password for the FSA ID because it's such a secure site. So it's much easier just to have the information written down somewhere safe. And then lastly, you have to enter your information exactly as appears on your social security card. So some students or parents might have like a hyphenated last name or something like that. Maybe their name is spelled differently than what they go by. It has to be used exactly as it appeared on their social security card. Another thing that you have to do is you're gonna have to use an email to create your ID. So students, seniors out there, don't use your Yonkers Public School email address because you're gonna have to access this while you're in college and you might not have access to your Yonkers school anymore. So use a personal email address. And what's gonna happen is that you're gonna start doing your FSA ID, and same thing for parents out there, because a parent and a student both have to do this. And they're gonna ask you for your email address and your cell phone number. They're going to email you a code that you have to put into the application, and then they're going to text you a code that you have to put into the application. So it's just another way to make sure that this information is very, very secure. So just be on the lookout, because you're going to have to enter that information into your application. You can see here it's an email with the code that you then have to enter into the actual application. I just wanted to point this out because I know some students might fall into this category. So like I said before, students, in order to fill out their FAFSA, they do need to be US citizens or green card holders. However, parents do not have to be. So if a student is a US citizen and their parent is undocumented, they can still apply for FAFSA. Their parents' immigration status has, no bearing on this. But parents who are undocumented cannot create an FSA ID because that is linked up with Social Security. So parents out there who are undocumented, what you're going to do is you're not going to create an FSA ID. You're going to go right into the FAFSA. They're going to ask you for your Social Security number, and you're just going to fill that in with zeros. And then at the end of the application, where you're supposed to sign electronically with your ID, you're not going to do that. You're going to click this button down here that says other options to sign and submit, and you're going to print a signature page that will then be mailed off, and that's how you're going to submit your FAFSA. So you will, parents without Social Security numbers will not be using an FSA ID. This is just a picture of what it looks like out there. So when you go to the website, you'll expect to see this. The left is the FAFSA website, and on the right, that's the My Student Aid application for your smartphone. So FAFSA now is much easier to use than ever before, and there are a number of reasons for that. But first, when you go to fill out your financial aid applications, it's actually going to tell you what line on your tax return to look for. So you'll see on this sample right here, it's going to tell you to look at line 7, and that's the information you're going to use to answer this specific question. So it really tells you exactly where to look on your taxes to answer the question. There's also something called tooltips, which is this little question mark that I circled. And what that does is it gives you a really detailed explanation of every question. So every page on the FAFSA will have that little question mark that you can click on to get more information on what that question is asking. Males out there, for all the males out there, you're going to have to register for selective service in order to qualify for financial aid. And what that means is that if there ever was a draft, which don't worry, there is not a draft, but if there ever was a draft, you would have to register for that in order to qualify for aid. So you're going to see that question on your financial aid. If you're a male, you're going to have to register for selective service in order to qualify for the aid. Work study is another question on the financial aid application. I know I talked about it a little bit before, but basically what work study is it's a program that pays you to do a job while you're in college. So for example, students work like in the library, in the admissions office, in the cafeteria, number of places, and you receive money in return for that. And it's great because they work around your schedule since it's part of the college, part of the college. The amount that you're going to be awarded for the year will be on your financial aid letter. So when everyone's filling out their FAFSA applications, is going to say, are you interested in being considered for work study? Everyone should answer yes. Few things about that though. Just by putting yes does not mean you're automatically going to get work study. You actually have to find the job yourself and go through the process of, applying and all of that. All of the colleges will have somewhere on their website where it will list all the jobs available for work study. So the first step is you're going to put yes, but then once you get into the college and know where you're going, now you're going to actually have to apply for the work study jobs. On the FAFSA application, you can add 10 schools at a time. We have a lot of students that apply to more than 10 schools though. So what's going to happen is you're going to add 10 schools. You're going to wait a few business days and you're going to receive an email that your FAFSA was processed. When it's processed, that means that all the information that you've included on your FAFSA has been sent to all the colleges that you put on this list. So now, since the colleges have received that information, you can actually go back into your FAFSA, delete the colleges, and add the next round of colleges that you want to apply to. The thing here is that every college that you apply to has to be on your FAFSA. So say you do your FAFSA in a week or two, and then say in a few months you decide to apply to more schools, you're going to have to go back in and add those to your FAFSA. So every single school that you apply to, community colleges, four-year colleges, everything has to be included on your FAFSA application. Now, I know that some of you might not even know all the schools that you want to apply to, which is fine. Just put in the schools that you're thinking about applying to, just so you have your FAFSA done. And then when you know where your other schools you're going to apply to, go back in and add them, okay? So even if you add just Westchester Community College, because that's the school that you've all applied to, just add it, and then you can add more schools later on. Another reason why the FAFSA is easier to use now than ever is because of something called the IRS data retrieval tool. And what that does is it basically links the IRS information directly to your FAFSA. So you are not going to have to look through your taxes to find out what your income is and what this is. It just automatically takes that information and puts it right into your FAFSA, which is really, really great. The only thing is that when you're doing this, and this is going to be an option on when you're filling out your applications, you have to write down your name and address exactly as it appears on your tax return. So for example, say you live on like Warburton Avenue, but on your taxes, it says Warburton Ave. You're going to have to write down Ave instead of Avenue, because it has to be exactly how it's listed on your tax return. Otherwise, it will not link up. Sometimes the link doesn't work at all, and you can't connect it to the IRS information, which in case you'll have to enter that information in manually, which is fine, but it's just an option there. For parents who do not file taxes, either because maybe you don't work or maybe you don't make enough to qualify to have to do your taxes, over here, they're gonna ask you, have you completed your income tax return? You're just gonna put down that you're not going to file. And if you are unemployed and don't work, you can put down 0 as your income, because they will ask you for what your income is. So that is the FAFSA application. That, again, that's money from the federal government that you can use towards any college in the United States. But now there's one more application that everyone here has to complete, and that's the TAP application. And the TAP application gives you money from New York State. So if you go to college in New York State, you can get money from the federal government by applying for the FAFSA application, and from New York government by applying for the TAP. So you'll get more money. The easiest way to apply for TAP is by on the confirmation page of your FAFSA, which is this picture right here. This is the picture that's going to appear once you submit your FAFSA. There's going to be a little button that says start your state application, which I circled here in red. That's the easiest way to apply for TAP. You click on that, and it's going to populate a lot of information that you would already put it on your FAFSA right into your TAP. Sometimes though, it doesn't work. For some reason last year, every time I did financial aid with students, it never worked. So in which case, you have to wait for your FAFSA to be processed. You're going to receive an email that it was processed, and you can go back in and you're going to go to this website here to apply for TAP. So TAP stands for Tuition Assistance Program, meaning that the money from the TAP can only be used for tuition at a college. Like I said, it can only be used towards New York State schools. It's based on your New York State tax return, not your federal tax return. The maximum award for last year was $5,665. Again, that might increase for this year, we're not sure. And similarly to the FAFSA, you have to apply every single year. This is just a screenshot of what the page looks like. So when you see this, you'll know you're in the right place. Unlike the FAFSA, you can only add one school on your TAP. So typically what's going to happen is it's going to populate with the first New York State school that you had listed on your FAFSA, and it's just going to add it right here onto your TAP. You can keep it like that. You can change it if you want. To be honest with you, it really doesn't matter. This is kind of just a placeholder. When you decide what college you're going to go to at the end of the year, around May, then you can go back into your TAP and you're going to change it to the actual college that you're going to. So again, the college that's listed here, you can change it, keep it, it doesn't matter. It's really just a placeholder until you change it to the actual college you're going to go to later on in the year. So those are the two applications that everybody has to complete, FAFSA and TAP. Even if you plan on going to a college out of New York State, still you have to complete it because you never know what's going to happen at the end of the day. So now that we've completed those applications, how is your financial aid determined? It's determined by the parent's income and assets, the student's income and assets, the size of the family, and the number of children that will be attending college. So for last school year, the maximum amount that people received based on their income was $12,160, which is a lot of money. Just to put it in perspective, that will completely pay for CUNY, completely pay for Westchester Community College, completely pay for tuition at a SUNY, not room and board, but tuition. So there are a lot of opportunities out here to go to college for free. Now that we talked about the financial aid for FAFSA and TAP, there is another kind of aid that's out there, and it's called institutional aid. And what that means is that that's money that the school is going to give you. So it's not from the government, it's from the actual college. Institutional aid can either be need-based, meaning that the school will look at your financial aid documents, see how much money you can afford towards that college, and then they'll give you money based on that. Or it could be merit-based, meaning that they look at your GPA or SAT scores or things like that and give you money based on that. Institutional aid can actually make some private schools cheaper than public schools. So everyone should have a mix of public and private schools on their list, because you might actually end up going to a private school for cheaper based on institutional aid. So colleges that will give you this kind of money are going to require something called a CSS profile. And what that is, it's another financial aid application that asks for a lot of more in-depth information. And based on the information that you provide, the colleges will see, they're going to make a decision of how much they think you can pay for that college. And they might give you, some colleges will give you a little bit of money, some colleges will give you the rest of the money to attend there. Not every school requires this application. Only some private schools do. The list of which schools require it is here at this link, cssprofiles.collegeboard.org. So that's where the list is, and it's also where the application is. And everyone here should have a College Board login that they've used to take the SATs, to do things like that. That's the exact same login that you're going to use to complete the CSS profile. Now, I know that there's been a lot of talk lately, and maybe some of you heard about like free college in New York State. You can go to college for free in New York State. And what they're talking about is the Excelsior Scholarship. And what that is, it's full tuition coverage for students attending a SUNY or CUNY school. Now, like I said, if you qualify for full financial aid, that'll be free for you anyways. But some students and families might not qualify for the full amount of aid. This is where the Excelsior Scholarship comes in to help you. So it will cover the remaining cost of tuition at those schools after your financial aid. So if you don't qualify for the full aid because of your income, this application might be what you need to do. Applicants must have a combined family income of $125,000 or less. So if your family makes $125,000 or less, you can go to a CUNY for free and pay for tuition at a SUNY like Westchester Community College for free. There are some caveats to it. So you must attend college full time, and you must complete 30 credits a year. And then here is a little kicker. You must agree to reside in New York State for the number of years equal to the duration of the award and be employed by New York State. Meaning, say you go to a CUNY school for 4 years and you use the Excelsior Scholarship to attend, you have to live in New York State for 4 years after graduation. And if you work, it has to be in New York State. If you move to another state, that money that you use, the scholarship, will then turn into a loan that you have to pay back. So something to think about. There's also something called an enhanced tuition award, which gives $6,000, up to $6,000 for private schools. So it's just like the Excelsior Scholarship, but it's for private schools, and it's a portion of the money, $6,000. It's the exact same qualifications that I just listed for that. And then when I spoke about students who are undocumented, that they can apply for financial aid, this is what I was talking about. This is actually relatively new, and I'm so happy that it exists. It's called the New York State DREAM Act. And what it does is it allows undocumented students to apply for TAP, the Excelsior Scholarship, and the Enhanced Tuition Award. So you must attend a New York high school for 2 years or more to be eligible for it. So if students who are undocumented or in the past received no financial aid, now they can receive money to go to college in New York State for free. And I don't really want to get into loans here, but I do want to just explain a brief little summary of what loans are. I know everyone thinks loans are horrible, loans are bad, but there are some cases where the small federal student loans could be a good investment in your future, in your college, and every family is different. But there are federal student loans out there, not bank loans, but loans that are given to students through government. There are subsidized loans, which is when you apply for a loan, you have to pay that back. And you have to pay it back with interest, meaning that you may take out a certain amount, but after interest is added, it becomes more than that amount that you took out. There are subsidized loans, which is where your interest is being paid for while you're in college. Then there's unsubsidized loans, which means that you're paying for the interest and the loan and everything like that. So just to quickly go over, the maximum amount that a freshman can take out in federal student loans is $5,500. That's the maximum amount that you can take out. So people are thinking they're going to take out all this money from the federal government in loans. You're actually not. You can only take out $5,500 your first year. Your second year, that goes up to $6,500, and your third year and beyond, that goes up to $7,500. Then there's something called a Parent Plus loan, which a lot of you will see on your financial aid, your packages after you apply for college. Parent Plus loans, again, that's really up to the family if they want to take that out, but there are higher interest rates where students have 6 months to start paying back their loans. Parents have to start paying that back right away. So it's just something to think about. There's tons of scholarships out there that are free money that do not need to be paid back. Every year, Yonkers has their own scholarship book. Mr. Marco is going to get a copy of that probably around January, and you're all going to get your own copy. And those are scholarships that are just available to students in Yonkers public schools. So you're only competing against a much smaller portion of people. They're amazing. But here are some other websites also for you to look up that have other scholarships as well. Again, scholarships can be based on your GPA, it could be based on community service, it could be based on your financial need, it could be based on really, there's scholarships out there for everybody. So you guys should start definitely looking into that. And then lastly, I want to talk about some resources because I know I have tons of questions about financial aid all the time. There's all these different scenarios that pop up that I don't know how to do. So these are the numbers to call if you have questions about financial aid. So for FAFSA, you can go to 1-800-433-3243 or go to the website, and they're so helpful. If you have questions about TAP or any of the scholarships, the Excelsior, Enhanced Tuition, or the DREAM Act, you actually go to this website. You have to schedule an appointment, and at your scheduled time, somebody from TAP will give you a call, and they're also extremely helpful. So you're not alone out there. There's tons of resources out there to help you. And then lastly, I want to talk about the assistance that we're going to have here at Riverside. So we have really great people here at Riverside. They're going to help you actually complete your financial aid. So on Thursday, November 4th and Wednesday, November 10th, you're going to come down and create your FSA ID. Right, Mr. Marco? You're on mute.
Oh my God, thank you. So yes, so through the social studies classes, the ECHO and Gov teachers are gonna have a sign-up sheet. And then on Thursday, November 4th and Wednesday, November 10th, they would come down to the library during their assigned time, and they would be able to create an FSA ID. But they would have to make sure that they have their social security number, like the proper information. So we would be able to create that. And then for FAFSA assistance, on December 1st and December 8th, we're gonna also have a sign-up sheet. So if in the next month, now in November, you're having a difficult time with completing the FAFSA form, we're gonna have a sign up where you could come into the Riverside High School library and we'll assist you. So on December 1st, the counselors from YPI are gonna be there assisting students with, and parents if they want, completing the FAFSA application. And then on December 8th, the Fordham Trio program will be assisting. So those are, great days to help you with the whole process.
And that is it. I know I gave you a lot of information. I hope you're all still here. And if there's anyone that has any questions, you could put it in the chat or shout it out or however you want to do this.
Yeah, that was really great. Thank you so much for all that information. But yeah, we should definitely, whoever has a question, please ask now. Because we also have, you know, Mr. Del Rosario from the Fordham Trio, Mr. Suarez, that could also answer some of those questions as well. So if you have any questions, please let us know. Let me see. Yeah, so it was a great presentation.
Thank you. Again, I know it's a lot of information. I don't mean to overwhelm you, but I just want to make sure you guys have that there, and we'll be sharing the presentation so you can use it as a resource if you need to at any time.
Yeah. I know I had a student that had asked me that their parent was on disability, so they were not going to be filing any taxes. So again, they would just put 0. What would your answer be? Just put 0? How does that work?
Yeah, they are going to just report that they don't file the tax return. So they put disability? Do they have to include that information on their financial aid applications? I think
unmute Mr. Del Rosario. You have to unmute. I don't know if he's frozen or not. Oh, there.
Yeah. So what was the question? If the parent
is on disability and they're not, they did not file the taxes.
Yeah, that will be basically 0 in their income tax section. And we know we're no file. That's why the parent has to check.
In cases where parents report 0 income, the colleges will usually ask for more information, like how are you living? Do you receive any benefits, anything like that? So there will be more information that the colleges will definitely come back and have you submit and forms to fill out to make sure that, you know, you're being, just make sure what your financial history is.
Yeah, they will probably, do a follow-up and ask questions to the parents and the students. And they will probably ask for further documents.
Yes.
Yeah.
We do have another great question. When is the FAFSA application due? I thought I had about a week left to do it.
So, no, you have a what? Technically, you have until like the end of June to do it. However, definitely do not wait until June to do it. You want to do it as soon as possible because you want, when you apply to colleges, you want to receive the financial aid packages from your schools and see what you owe and see how you can start making the decision of what college to go to. I mean, also think of it as a pool. Financial aid is a pool, and it's going to just get more money is going to get taken away as people apply. So you don't want to wait that long, but you do have time to do it.
Yeah, I also was hearing that, you know, especially with the private schools, once those like private colleges that give those like, you know, based on those, once it's gone, once the money is given, it's given. So that's why the sooner you complete it and submit that information, the better chances you have of maybe receiving one of those particular scholarships.
And also just to piggyback on that, Mr. Marco, some schools will have their own application deadline. So for example, Fordham's on the top of my head for some reason. Theirs is like by February that information has to be submitted because they have to give out that money and see who's going to be attending and not. So check with the specific colleges that you're applying to see when their application deadline is.
Right. What are the requirements for the financial aid? I guess that's that first slide that you have if you just want to show it in case that person came in late quickly.
Yep, absolutely. You can still see this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, you're going.
Oh no, this one. These are the requirements, right?
Yep. When are you supposed to, okay, so these are the requirements. Let me answer that one first. So do you see that? So you must be a US citizen or an eligible non-citizen with like a green card holder. have a social security number, be enrolled in an eligible degree or certificate program, have a high school equivalency diploma. That's obviously, you know, you're going to college. So that's what you're gonna need. Then the documents, let me show the next slide.
This is what everyone's gonna need to bring.
Yes, all the documents that you will need to complete the FAFSA. You're gonna have to create an FSA ID, that's your signature. You're gonna need your social security number, alien registration if you're a non-US citizen, your 2020 federal and state tax returns, bank statements and records of investment, records of untaxed documents, a driver's license or New York state ID, and a list of schools that you're interested in applying to, all the schools that you're applying to. Okay, so another question that we had here was, if we followed the P-TECH program for another year, can we apply for FAFSA afterwards too, after we graduate from it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. And then when are you supposed to pay back the financial aid? So meaning, so the Pell and the TAP that you receive, those are grants. That's, you receive, you do not have to pay back. What you pay back is the loans. So the unsubsidized loans, it's 6 months after you graduate, you have to start paying them.
I'm pulling. So students have a grace period where they can wait 6 months to pay back their student loans. Here, right here. Parents, if you take out a parent loan, you have to start paying that back right away, but that's only for loans. Financially, it is free. It's free money. That's why everybody needs to apply. Doesn't matter what your situation is, just apply because you never know what's going to happen. That's free money towards college. And like we said, if you are eligible for the full amount, which is based on the things that I said, your income, the amount of people in your family, things like that, you can go to college absolutely free and actually get money back because the amount of aid that you receive is more than the cost of a CUNY, for example. You could use that money towards books and transportation. So there's a lot of opportunities out there.
Will there be another presentation on this topic? Well, we'll post the slides like on our class teams. There are tons of presentations. If I know there's a College Money Matters, it's .org. So I'm gonna post it tomorrow on our class of 2022 page. And there's actually great little 2 to 4 minute, 5 minute videos about the college process and financial aid. But also if you need additional help, we did post a video, the last slide, that we are going to have on December 1st and December 8th, if your parents need one-on-one help in completing the FAFSA, we'll have a sign up in the Riverside High School Library during the school day to complete that.
Okay, so I see Mr. Suarez's hand. I just want to quickly say that I'm also recording this, so I will have it up on the Riverside Senior webpage. I'll forward it to the tech department so that they can put the presentation in its entirety up on the page. Mr. Suarez.
Yeah, thank you. Some bits of advice that I can give, because right now I'm also doing the same thing at the 2 high schools that I work out of, Lincoln and Gorton. Some things that I can recommend to you seniors, specifically regarding this page right here. Think of the FAFSA process in 3 parts. Number 1, the FSA ID, which honestly is the most critical and most important part. When I notice that I'm working with seniors, if they make mistakes on that part, it can, you know, foul up the whole entire process when you get ready to sign and submit it. So make sure that when you're creating the FSA ID, you take your time, you know, seniors, it's not a rush. You know, I noticed that, again, you seniors, when you make mistakes on creating your FSA ID, it's one of two things. Number one, you know, writing your date of birth, you're off by a digit or two. And two, most importantly, you're off when you're writing your social security number, because it's a 9-digit number. So sometimes I notice with students that I'm working with out of Gorton and Lincoln, they mess up on that part. So it's very critical that you get your FSA ID username and password correct, because otherwise when you try to log in, you know, you're going to encounter many problems. And also, in order to take full advantage of the opportunity for the FAFSA assistance, whether it's for December 1st with YPI or with us, Fordham Talent Search on December 8th, again, seniors, because this is what I'm doing at my 2 schools, so I highly recommend that you also follow through on this. Again, do the FSA ID first. All right, that's the most important thing. And then after the FAFSA is 2 sections, the student section and then the parent section. What I'm doing, I'm doing 2-day sessions with all the seniors that I'm visiting, specifically their English and social studies classes. Day 1, I'm going to all their classes to help you seniors create your FSA ID. And then the next day, I'm helping you to complete the student section. So when you get those 2 things, completed, it's going to make the third part where we come in, Fordham Talent Search or YPI, the easiest part, where basically you're just bringing in your parents' taxes and we're just going to help you to link it to the IRS, or if we have to, enter the information in manually, and then we go to sign and submit, and then you're done. But if you try to do everything all at once, because some seniors I've noticed in years past too, they've tried to do this, it can be very overwhelming for them, very daunting, because honestly, trying to do this from beginning to end, you could probably be at your computer for like 2 hours. And, sometimes it can be very tedious and frustrating. And sometimes, again, when you reach the last step, sign and submit, FAFSA will say, not so fast, your application is incomplete or missing. However, FAFSA will not tell you what is missing or incomplete. Sometimes in the men's cases, it can be if they didn't fill out the selective service part correctly. Sometimes it can be, not adding the income part right. You don't know, because again, FAFSA is not going to tell you that. So again, to take full advantage of this assistance, again, whether it's going to be with YPI on December 1st or with us, Fordham Talent Search on the 8th, seniors, I highly recommend, again, doing part 1, completing your FSA ID username and password first, and then completing the student section. And then by the time we get there, this is going to be cake. This is going to be easy. And also to seniors, also try to bring your parents' driver's license number. And I'll tell you the reason why is because when you do the TAP shortly after the FAFSA, like Ms. Striano was saying, the information is going to be populated. So therefore, you don't really have to enter anything. You're just going to basically confirm the information that was, from your FAFSA. You're going to make sure that your top, New York State college is there. And at the end, TAP is going to give you 2 ways to sign it: electronically or paper. The best way to do it, again, as I'm doing it with the seniors right now at Lincoln and Gorton, is to make sure that you have your parents' driver's license there. Why? Because it's going to save you the time. You're going to be able to submit it. And if you don't, unfortunately, you have to mail out the paper version of it and then send it to Albany. So again, try to take advantage again of December 1st and December 8th, but also too, to bring one of your parents' driver's license as well. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have any more questions? I'll check the chat.
I see Mr. Del Rosario has a question.
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Suarez, for clearing that up. Basically, that's what we're gonna do later on with the FSA ID creation event. We're gonna, we're breaking down the whole process in small steps so that when students come on December 1st or December 8th, they are ready to complete the FAFSA. And also during those creation events for the FSA ID, if they need a list of the requirements for completing the FAFSA, I'm gonna have some copies so that I can share with the students. I am basically the counselor for the talent search program assigned to Riverside High School. I am in the main office on Wednesdays and Thursdays. If you wanna see me. For those students that I already saw, I saw 2 groups of seniors about 2 weeks ago. You already have all this information about how to create the FSA IDs. So I hope that you're doing the IDs so that when we have the FAFSA events, that you're ready. So thank you, and I hope to see you soon in the school.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yano. You did a wonderful, wonderful presentation, and everybody that joined us. So have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yano. Thank you.